So week 3 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few pitchers I will look to drop this week. The first guy is Julian Merriweather of the Toronto Blue Jays. So Merriweather, he was a huge pickup early on in the first 2 weeks of the fantasy season as a closer for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he was mowing down teams, and he was getting the 1, 2, 3 saves as Merriweather. But now he's on the injured list with an oblique injury, and you know how it goes with the obliques. It could take some players up to 1 to 2 months to come back, and the reports already are that Merriweather, he won't be back after the 10 days. And right now, fantasy owners, they've dropped him in 4% of fantasy leagues. So far in the early going for Merriweather, 4 in the third inning, 2 saves. He has 1 hit only given up, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, a 0 ERA, and an 0.46 whip. So Merriweather, he was off to a roaring start with 2 impressive saves versus the New York Yankees. And this guy, he looked pretty dominant and maybe the next big closer. But right now, with him on the injured list with the oblique strain, he's a player right now I could get away from and drop because there's so many better players hurt this season. That's probably on most fantasy owners' rosters who have Merriweather. So right now, I would just drop him, and hopefully no one scoops him up. And if they do, it is what it is, because closer, it's pretty much a crapshoot in my opinion, except the first top 5 or 10 guys at the position. But right now, I would drop Merriweather. The second pitch is Jordan Hicks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Hicks, he's been spectacular this season so far. But right now in fantasy baseball, it's all about the saves. If you want a dominant reliever or Josh Hader, who obviously is the exception to that. So far in the season, Hicks, like I said, he's been great. 7 innings pitched, only 2 hits given up, 1 earned run, 6 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and a 1.14 whip. And he's been dropped in 3% of fantasy leagues. Because right now, the closer here for the Cardinals, Reyes, and we thought Hicks would be the closer coming into the season, and he's even one of the players I had as a sleeper. But right now, Alex Reyes is the closer here for this St. Louis Cardinal team. And Reyes, he's been lights out as well on the season so far. 6 in the third inning, 4 hits given up for Reyes, 3 saves, 5 strikeouts, and a 1.42 ERA. So as long as Reyes is the closer here for this St. Louis Cardinal team, I don't think Jordan Hicks, as a 7th or 8th inning man for this Cardinal team, is really going to have much fantasy value. And I would just drop him off my team right now. The next pitcher is Jake Odorizzi of the Houston Astros. So Odorizzi, he signed late in the offseason here with the Astros. And maybe he's not just up to par with things and in mid-season form or beginning season form, whatever you want to call it. So Odorizzi, he thought he had a deal earlier in the offseason with the New York Mets, but the Mets got new ownership and that deal fell through. So he had to wait all the way to February, right before spring training. And he signed here with the Houston Astros. And so far in the season, it's been a train wreck here for Odorizzi. 7 2/3, an 0-2 record, 10 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs given up, 11 strikeouts, a 10.57 ERA, and a 1.70 whip. So Odorizzi, he started 2 ball games, and he's been hit very hard by 2 mediocre to poor offenses. April 13th versus Detroit, 3 in the third innings. He's got the loss in that one. 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 home runs, 4 strikeouts, and it came out to a 13.50 ERA and a 2.10 whip. And then April 18th at Seattle, 4 in the third innings, got the loss in that one. 3 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, an 8.31 ERA, and a 1.38 whip. So those numbers, obviously, they're nothing good at all here for Odorizzi. And he's been dropped in 4% of fantasy leagues so far this week, and he should be dropped even in more. He's not getting the job done. Now he's got a tough matchup coming up April 23rd versus the Angels. And I know Houston gave him a good chunk of change, so obviously he's going to stay in the rotation here for the Astros, but he's a player that shouldn't be on the fantasy radar at this time. Maybe by his 5th or 6th start, he'll get things going in May or June, but right now, he's a player I easily could drop this week. The next pitcher I would drop is Christian Javier of the Houston Astros, Odorizzi's teammate. So Javier, he got sent down to the alternate site here, and we'll see if he'll come back to the majors, because last season he was pretty good with Javier. In 54 in the third innings, he had a 5-2 record, only 36 hits given up, 21 earned runs, 18 walks, 54 strikeouts, which came out to a 3.48 ERA, an 0.99 whip, and 3 quality starts. But so far here in the early going, he's got 8 2/3 under his belt. He got a win, 6 hits given up, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, 0.92 whips. I don't know why Javier got sent back down to the site. So maybe they're just calling up another pitcher to get innings in, and they'll call him back up next week. But right now, he's been dropped in 3% of fantasy leagues is Javier. And his first 2 starts of the season, April 2nd at Oakland, 3 2/3, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, a 4.91 ERA, and an 0.82 whip. And then April 8th versus Oakland, 5 innings, got the win in that one, 3 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 0 ERA, and a 1 whip. So right now, Javier, it's a wait-and-see approach Owners should take with him. But right now, I would drop him in shallower leagues. 14-team leagues and deeper, I probably would hold on to him. But 10 and 12-team leagues, there's really no reason to hold on to him unless there's reports that are going to come out in the next few days or whatever saying he'll be back for his next start. But right now, nothing's scheduled, and he's back to the alternate site to train here for Houston. And right now, in my opinion, he's definitely worth the drop here. In the 5th and final pitcher I will look to drop this week is Tanner Houck of the Boston Red Sox. So Houck here, he's been struggling so far, and he's another guy that it looks like he's going to go back down to the alternate site here. So far he's pitched in 3 ball games. Is Houck as an opener in 1 and the other one as a reliever. So right now Houck, he's been owned in 20% of fantasy leagues, and he's been dropped in 3% so far this week. Is Houck on the season for him, 10 1/3 innings, 0-2 record, 5 earned runs, gave up a homer, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts, a 4.35 ERA, and a 1.35 whip for Houck. So Houck, he shouldn't be owned really in many fantasy leagues. His first couple outings, April 3rd versus Baltimore, 5 innings, got the loss, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, 8 strikeouts, a 3.60 ERA, and a 1.40 whip. Then he had a relief outing versus Tampa. He went 1 inning in that one, gave up 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, and then April 18th as an opener in that ball game, he got the loss in that one, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, and 4 in an earned inning, 1 home run, 2 strikeouts, 6.23 ERA, and a 1.38 whip. So right now, those aren't great numbers. And right now, it says NA next to him, not active in fantasy leagues. So they're sending him down between the alternate site and the big league. So right now, he don't have a rotation spot, and he shouldn't have a roster spot in fantasy leagues. So that's a few pitchers I would look to drop here in week 3 of the fantasy baseball season.